This is Letters from a Stoic, a timeless collection of wisdom from one of Rome's greatest philosophers. These letters aren't just relics of the past, they're reminders to live deliberately, to face hardship with clarity, and to seek peace in a noisy world. Let this be your quiet guide in uncertain times. Seneca was a Roman philosopher, statesman, and playwright who lived during the 1st century. He served as advisor to Emperor Nero, but he's remembered not for his politics, rather for his deep, practical insights on how to live well. His letters offer reflections on grief, fear, success, aging, and the pursuit of virtue, written to a friend named Lucile, but meant for all of us. Letters 1 to 10. Seneca urges Lucilius to value his time above all else. Money lost can be regained, but lost time is gone forever. Life is long enough if used wisely, but we waste much of it in distractions. He advises that we begin living immediately, cutting off trivial obligations and making philosophy our guide. Seneca warns against hopping between too many books. Constantly switching makes our minds scattered and shallow. He recommends sticking with a few authors and letting their words shape our thoughts. Depth matters more than breadth. True understanding requires focused reflection, not endless variety. True friendship, Seneca says, involves complete trust. One should be cautious in choosing friends, but once chosen, we must trust them entirely. He contrasts this with those who share everything with acquaintances, yet guard themselves with friends. Real bonds should be grounded in virtue, not convenience. Death, to Seneca, is not a thing to be feared, but understood. He reminds us that death is part of the natural order. We return to the same nothingness from which we came. A wise person reflects on death often, not morbidly, but to live more freely and without fear. Seneca cautions against extremes. A philosopher should avoid both indulgence and self-punishment. He should blend in with society, yet remain inwardly anchored. The aim is balance, appearing normal while living by principles. Virtue isn't about show. It's about a quiet, steady discipline. Seneca shares his daily thoughts and gains from philosophy with Lucilius, showing that teaching is also a way of learning. Wisdom, he says, grows when passed on. True improvement comes not from hoarding insights, but from living them and spreading them generously to others. Seneca warns of the influence of crowds. When surrounded by noise and vice, we absorb their habits. He encourages Lucilius to spend time alone or with virtuous company. Better to improve oneself in solitude than risk moral decline among the unwise. Protect your inner peace. Seclusion is not escape, but a strategic retreat. Seneca suggests stepping away from society to strengthen oneself before returning to serve it better. Isolation allows us to clarify our values, develop resilience, and rehearse adversity. Solitude prepares us for life, not detachment from it. Seneca explores whether the wise need friends. He concludes that though the wise are self-sufficient, they still value companionship. Friends offer a chance to express virtue, offer comfort, and receive it. Even if not necessary, friendship is deeply enriching for the soul. Seneca urges Lucilius to live according to his own mind, not public opinion. Seeking approval traps us in inauthentic lives. Wisdom comes from within, not from praise or status. He advises keeping a moral compass, aligning actions with reason, and staying centered amid distraction. Letters 11 to 20. Seneca reminds Lucilius that true joy comes from within, not from external possessions. He urges him to let virtue be the source of happiness, and to stop depending on luxury or the approval of others. Jing is natural, and Seneca tells Lucilius not to fear it. He says that old age is a time to reflect and grow wiser, not something to dread. Death, too, should be accepted as part of the cycle. Fear is often caused by imagined dangers. Seneca suggests that Lucilius should mentally prepare for worst-case scenarios to weaken fear's hold and make peace with whatever may come. Seneca emphasizes the shortness of life and warns against wasting time. He encouraged Lucilius to live deliberately and invest time into building inner strength rather than chasing status. Simplicity is strength. Seneca argues that indulging in luxury weakens the soul, while hardship and discipline build resilience and character. He praises a minimalist lifestyle. Philosophy isn't about words but actions. Seneca urges Lucilius not just to read, but to live according to Stoic principles. Wisdom lies in doing, not just knowing. True friendship involves mutual improvement. Seneca believes a friend should help us grow morally, not just offer comfort. Choose friends who challenge you to be better. He criticizes empty rituals and celebrations, especially when they lead to excess. Seneca calls for a calm, mindful life guided by reason rather than the crowd. Self-sufficiency is a Stoic ideal. Seneca says that even in isolation or hardship, a wise person has enough because they rely on their own character and virtue. He reminds Lucilius that philosophy isn't a side hobby, but a way of life. To live well, one must constantly reflect, adjust, and commit fully to inner growth. Letters 21 to 30. Seneca tells Lucilius to stop delaying and begin fully committing to philosophy. Don't dabble dedicate. Just as a traveler must eventually settle, the seeker must choose a school of thought and live it. Life is full of uncertainties, and the wise person prepares for all outcomes. Seneca urges Lucilius to become emotionally self-reliant so that fortune can't shake his peace. True joy doesn't come from pleasure, but from a calm and steady soul. Seneca contrasts fleeting delight with the enduring contentment of a mind aligned with virtue. Seneca reminds Lucilius that death is always near, and to delay living well is a dangerous game. Live now, he says, as if each day were your last, but not in fear, in freedom. He speaks of the strength found in solitude. Though it may seem lonely, being content alone shows your spirit is whole and not dependent on external company or noise. Illness, pain, or even exile cannot disturb the inner life of a philosopher. Seneca emphasizes the invincibility of a mind that trusts in virtue and has let go of fear. Seneca urges Lucilius to write regularly, not just for dialogue, but for self-reflection. The act of writing clarifies thoughts and strengthens discipline. Travel doesn't fix an anxious mind. People run from place to place, but unrest follows. True peace, Seneca says, comes from confronting your thoughts, not fleeing them. Fortune gives and takes, but wisdom is ours alone. Seneca calls Lucilius to build wealth within a mind trained in calm, integrity, and courage. He warns against half-hearted effort. Just as a student must focus fully to learn, we must live deliberately. Distractions dull the soul, only full devotion brings transformation. Letters 31 to 40. Seneca tells Lucilius that no one is truly poor if they desire little. Riches lie in character, not coin. To live simply is to live wisely and free from fear. He reminds Lucilius to reflect each day. Just as a merchant checks his balance, we must examine our minds, noting progress and correcting faults with honesty. Reading widely is good, but reading deeply is better. Seneca warns against skimming many books. Stick to a few that shape your thinking and nourish your soul. A true student begins to resemble the teacher. Seneca praises Lucilius' growth, comparing it to a flame passed from one torch to another, spreading, not dimming. Seneca encouraged Lucilius to be proud of his progress, but warns against boasting. Wisdom must be worn lightly, and humility is proof of depth. He reminds Lucilius that the body is temporary, but the soul can grow forever. Don't fear aging. It is the sign of accumulated wisdom if lived rightly. Seneca uses the metaphor of battle life as war, and philosophy as your armor. One must train constantly to remain brave when hardship strikes. He cautions against following the crowd. Popular opinion often leads to ruin. Instead, walk the harder path of principle, even if it's lonely. Seneca speaks of friendship not just as companionship, but as a union of souls. A true friend reflects your values and helps you grow. He ends this section reminding Lucilius that while philosophy is serious, it should never be dull. Wisdom, though firm, carries joy and lightness when embraced. Letters 41 to 50. Seneca emphasizes the presence of a divine spirit within each of us. Virtue aligns us with this higher force. To act justly is to live in harmony with nature. He warns against the pursuit of novelty and constant change. A restless mind cannot grow roots. Instead, dwell deeply where you are and grow within. True greatness lies not in outward success, but in a steady soul. The wise man remains unmoved by insults or misfortune, like a rock against the waves. Seneca argues that nobility comes from virtue, not birth. We must shape our own identity through action, not ancestry. Character is our true lineage. He urges Lucilius to keep philosophy practical, aimed at healing the soul, not merely delighting the tongue. Words should serve virtue, not vanity. On dealing with loss, Seneca reminds that grief is natural, but should be tempered with reason. We mourn, but must not drown in it. Seneca speaks passionately against the cruelty of slavery. He reminds that all people share the same humanity. Fortune alone separates master from servant. He warns against being overly impressed by fame. Many admired people are not admirable. Value virtue and silence over praise and error. Seneca compares life to a journey. We must not be obsessed with the destination, but find value in how we walk the path, with care and principle. He closes by warning of vanity in knowledge. Philosophy is not performance, it is transformation. Wisdom must show itself not in speech, but in how we live. Letters 51 to 60. Seneca urges Lucilius to flee the corrupt city and seek solitude in nature. Physical escape may not be possible, but spiritual retreat through disciplined thought is always within reach. He discusses the nature of the good. True good is found in virtue, not in pleasure or comfort. Pleasure may accompany good, but is never its source. Life's dangers are many, Seneca notes, like the fumes in a cave that nearly poisoned him. The metaphor reminds us how fragile our bodies are and how important inner resilience is. Death is not to be feared. Just as we don't remember the time before birth, we will not suffer after death. Fear fades when reason leads. Seneca speaks of travel as a poor remedy for inner turmoil. You can't escape yourself. Peace comes not from scenery but from serenity of soul. He critiques noisy neighbors in Rome, using them as symbols of external distractions. The wise learn to tune out the noise and find peace within. Seneca reflects on fear during a carriage ride, how the body panics while the mind remains calm. Fear is natural, but philosophy trains us to master it. Language should be clear and honest. He criticizes philosophers who obscure truth with complexity. Wisdom is simple, and so too should be its expression. Wealth is not evil, but it must serve, not rule. Possessions are tools, not treasures. Only a mind free from attachment can live freely and fully. In his final reflections, Seneca reminds us that time is life. We waste hours as if we own them, but each moment is a step toward the end. Use it well. Thank you for joining this journey through timeless wisdom. These letters invite us not just to think, but to live with courage, clarity, and grace. May their lessons steady your mind and deepen your peace, no matter the challenges ahead. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep reading mindfully.